everybody. Welcome to Roll to Talk, where you gotta roll for that persuasion to talk with the people that you've just met. Howdy, my name is Dice&Autism. I tell stories on the net, and this is a Witty ex-Witchiners thing. Say hi, Witty.
Hi, Witty.
Yeah! What's up? So, today, it is the two of us, after having so many cool guests and all that, which you should go totally check out, and their socials, by the way, and everything, because we'll make sure, because we support the homies and all that. We've been talking a whole bunch of horror stuff and everything, and guess what? We're still talking about horror games, so, hey! Almost like it's a theme of the season today.
Almost.
Almost. Like we've planned this all from the beginning and everything. Yeah. But yes, today, as the title suggests and everything, we will be talking about Candela Obscura, the first TTRPG made by the lovely people of Critical Role, more specifically, Darrington Press and everything. And boy, howdy, I do love this game. I have hearing about it and then being like, ooh, this is kind of like a cool magic eldritch horror Victorian steampunk rural urban goth kind of like thing and all that. This is like pretty cool. And then like watching like the development and then like seeing like the one shots and like the little mini campaigns that goes on for like the Critical Role did for their game and stuff. It was like really cool. I got the book and I got the digital copy. I even had like the demi-plane version of it as well. So I really do love this. What about you, Witty?
Well, so I have only read through the rules. Like, I haven't actually watched people play. I had the Critical Role Candela game saved to watch, and then I got a job where I couldn't just watch and listen to TTRPGs all the time. So, you know, I haven't actually had a chance to watch people play this. I haven't had a chance to play it myself. But reading through the rules, there are a couple things I think are really cool, and a couple things that I'd have to see in action to see how I feel about it.
Yeah, I actually got to be like I got to do like a one shot on my first time at Gen Con, which was like 3 years ago when it was like getting like about to be released and everything. So I got like a preview of it. It was so much fun. It was such a simple system because I was a little afraid of like, okay, cool, new game that's getting out and everything. Probably gonna be very complicated, but it's so hi ZZ. Hi, my cat is barking at me.
Hi, Zelda.
Yeah, Zelda. No, it's such a simple, easy system to like pick up and just kind of like have a one shot or a mini campaign and everything. And I think that's kind of like the core strength of this game, pretty much. Yeah, and
I was like, that's one of the things I think is really interesting about Darrington Press. I'm going to talk about them as a company for a second before we get too into the nitty gritty of the game. Is that like so many people like really like Candela Obscura, For the Queen, and Daggerheart. And I do feel like Daggerheart is kind of the most complex that they've made so far. But there are still a lot of easier barriers to entry than D&D, for example, as we've talked about before. But I do think it's really interesting that Darrington Press seems to be making their MO these very approachable games that are easy to pick up and learn, as opposed to games that you have to read the whole book before you have any clue what you're doing.
Oh, yeah, that is like certainly a design philosophy you can absolutely feel within like the pages and how they explain the rules, and even with the character sheet when like you can always judge. I don't want to say judge. You can always get the vibe of like how complicated a game is going to be when you look at a game's character sheet and everything.
So true.
Like it's not like surface like valuing. It's more kind of like seeing the box cover art, and then if you've been in the game for a while and everything, and you see like all the boxes you got to fill up and everything, and it's like,
Yeah. Is there room for every single thing you need to put on there? Or are you going to be writing in like teeny tiny letters and you won't be able to read it later because it's too little without a magnifying glass?
Stares deeply in Pathfinder First Edition.
Yeah.
As a bard. As my first character in Pathfinder was a bard. So I had God, but no, yeah. I really do love it, and like the hype around like the Candela Obscura release was very palpable. Like people were so excited, and then like after a year or two, it has like died out, and people have said, and like we were kind of like talking this like off screen before now, and I was like, we're gonna pin this because I have things to say, because like you haven't really seen a lot of people do like actual plays for like Candela Obscura and everything, except for Critical Role during like their like anthology mini campaigns and everything, and like maybe a few people doing their own like mini series and stuff. And I think what people were expecting for like their debut TTRPG of Darrington Press to be like this flat out like game changer and everything, and like it was like that high expectation of like, oh yeah, this is gonna be a blockbuster, this is gonna be a huge blockbuster, break all the records and everything. But like in reality, it's like baby's first Call of Cthulhu, Vampire the Masquerade without like without the hunger and everything. Like it is a beginner TTRPG and everything. And the fact that it's so well designed, with like the facts that like this game is like designed purposely to be kind of like a short-term campaign for people to get into the water of TTRPGs and then to expand furthermore, is honestly great and fantastic. I feel like that's something that people kind of underappreciate about or don't focus on a lot and everything. So, what about you?
Well, I like that you mentioned like Cthulhu and Vampire, because like we've talked about both of those games on this season already. And I do think that what's interesting as I was reading through Candela is that it reminded me a lot of Cthulhu, just in the vibes. Like I mentioned to you off camera that the character cards in the how to build your character chapter look so Art Deco. They look so 20s. The jobs are like journalist and medium, and I'm like, this is giving Cthulhu. But I think what's interesting about Candela, and as you said, it's more of an intro game, is it's not as dark. It definitely has some darkness. Like there's marks and scars. We'll talk about those in a minute. But like whereas with Cthulhu you have the sanity mechanic, and with Vampire you have hunger. Those aren't really there in the same way. It seems like with Candela you still get to be more heroic than you do in the other two.
Yeah, like there's no like,
which is very like noir pulp, right? Like,
oh yeah, definitely. I think that was like the vibe they were going for and everything. Like how like Call of Cthulhu is that noir pulp, but it's like that dash of noir pulp in like the big old soup of like eldritch existential horror and everything.
Yeah. Cthulhu is eldritch horror before it is noir, and I do feel like Candela is noir before anything else.
Yeah.
And I can totally see any of the characters that someone builds being, that suave detective from the 20s, that, catches the bad guy and then lights his pipe or cigar. Like,
oh yeah.
Almost, just like a 20s version of Sherlock Holmes instead.
Oh. Yes, a 20s version of Sherlock Holmes that isn't like just an asshole looking at you, Moffat and BBC Sherlock.
If there's any diehard Sherlock fans and I have given Sherlock too much credit, please don't come for me.
I'm not afraid of them. I've been swinging at them hard.
My knowledge of Sherlock Holmes is the Robert Downey Jr. movies and Basil of Baker Street.
Ooh, those are good. Those are really good ones. Like
those are what I got.
Those are good. I'm autistic, so I'm always going to be like info dumping and researching about Sherlock Holmes. But maybe if there's like a Sherlock Holmes TTRPG, we'll get more into that.
So valid.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's really interesting because like I noticed when I was reading the premise of this system, kind of talking about it being more like heroic. I was like, wow, this reminds me so much of Neil Gaiman's Neverwhere. Just to get to the Touchstone chapter and see that was in fact a touchstone that they had used as inspiration for the game, and I was like, that's why. That's so why.
Yeah.
Another one that I thought especially with like that other world that you're supposed to keep separate. Because that's the whole premise. For those that haven't read the book, for those that have no idea what this game is, that's sort of the premise, is you are these heroes that are keeping the Fey supernatural world away from the real world and making sure that, regular humans don't learn about it. And I do feel like, in a way, it reminded me a lot of South of Midnight, too, the video game.
Oh!
Excellent game for anybody who hasn't played it. Cannot recommend enough. The music absolutely slaps.
Oh, yes.
But yeah, but it's that, you've got the secret thing going on, and I think it's really interesting keeping it at bay. And again, like, and you said this as well, is like keeping that at bay as opposed to like just delaying the inevitable.
Yeah.
As Ashley May talked about with Cthulhu. So.
Yeah. I like to, when reading Candela Obscura, I compared it a lot in my head with like the Hellboy, like comics and movies and everything. I was like, that's how it felt. Like I felt like I was the Bureau of like the Paranormal Investigations and everything, and we're just like, yeah, something crazy is about to happen. All right, well, gather up your ragtag crew, make sure you got like a ancient fish person and also a guy who likes cats, Baby Ruth, and it's like shaves down his horns and everything. Let's go. So yeah, that was going on in my head, and I appreciate the fact that even though it is like this sort of like eldritch magic horror, like there is still a sense of optimism and everything, because when it comes to like these topics and all that, I feel like there's always like the quick easy like shortcut for it to like be effective with the horror is that, hey, you can't kill the horror, you can't kill it. And it's like, yeah, you can, sometimes you can, but I think what people don't appreciate is when you're able to like manage the horror and everything, even at your best points and low points, you're still able to manage it back into like its little like area, and you're able to kind of like still have your days, like your normal days, and be a person, and like still have that hope of like, yeah, I'm still standing, I can do this all day, let's go.
Yeah, exactly. It's much more hopeful. It's much more triumphant in its coding, at least.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. But yeah, let's dive deeper into this game now, shall we?
We shall.
Yeah. All right. So, with Candela Obscura and everything, what you basically need is 8d6s. Is it 8d? Oh, it's a total of 9d6s. Yes.
I didn't catch how many. I just saw that it was d6, which I love. I love a d6 system, as anybody who's listened to this before will know.
Yep. Yeah. Yes, it is. I believe it's like 9d6s here and all that, and you need one that is a gilded dice and everything. And the gilded dice is kind of like your special like dice that you use on like occasions when the GM tells you to like roll for all that and everything. And depending and brain, and for your character sheet and everything, there are basically three stats: your nerve, your cunning, and your intuition. And those themselves have like 3 things as well, which I always appreciate about. Like this is like super easy, super cool and guff. Like nerve, there's move, strike, control, cunning, sway, read, hide, intuition, survey, focus, and sense. And then you can pick one to be like your specialty. And that's where I believe you can use your gilded dice in to roll like an extra dice. Or no, it's like when you use your drive.
What I understood when I read it was that if you have points in one of your abilities or stats, you can then use that point to re-roll your gilded dice.
Yes.
That's what I understood. But again, I was kind of skimming it, and I've only read it. I haven't played it, so maybe I'm completely wrong.
No, you're right. The dust is coming back off. So,
Get the cobwebs out of there.
Get the little cobwebs off and everything. But no, it's like a really fun system, and like we said, like the drives and everything, each depending on like the stats you chose to be like you're really good at, the one you're moderately good, and the one you're like at, you'll have these drives where you can re-roll and everything, and you use it to re-roll the gilded dice and all that, and like pretty much what you want to do for your success rolls and everything is that 1 through 3, you failed. Absolutely failed. Just bad. Just all bad stuff. Total failure. 4 or 5, it's the mixed success. Everything. We love the mixed success on here. Just good. A little bit. You get what you want, but it comes at a cost. At a 6, it is a full success and everything. You get it with no complications, on multiple 6s, however. So it's like either if you get like 2 6s or 3 6s, and somehow the devil comes out of your room and gives you a high five because you rolled the number of the beast and everything. That is a critical success that you get what you wanted and something extra, which is I really do love when you have like dice roll mechanics where it's like, hey, if you get matching numbers and stuff, that's a success.
Mm-hmm. Or, you know, if it's not a success, I'm gonna plug Dragon Age again. You get to do cool stuff. Like,
Indeed.
But no, I think again, we've talked so much about mixed successes. We've talked about them with Cthulhu. They're very popular with Powered by the Apocalypse games, like such as Monster of the Week and Thirsty Sword Lesbians. The like mixed successes are so fun, and I really like the different options that you have there. And that's something too that I read about the Gilded Dice and whether or not you want to re-roll it. Is sometimes you want to take a mixed success. And you know, you could chance on getting all 6s, but really what's your likelihood? It's 1 in 6.
Hey, yeah.
I can do math. I play games. I can do math.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, and I think it's really interesting because you get a lot of player agency out of that, of like whether or not you want a full success, a crit success, or just a mixed success. I think I always love things that give player agency. Again, I love a D6 system. Always a big fan of those. I like when I can just pull them out of the Yahtzee box. And the only thing that I'm kind of on is I'm not crazy about dice pools.
Okay.
Like, I don't know if it's just like I don't quite get them the same way I get roll dice, add numbers, good.
Yeah.
But all that to say is like, it just, I haven't really gotten in the vibe of how the dice pool works. Do they just get added together? Do you take the highest of the pool? Do you have to get a certain number above, like, a stat number? I don't know. So anyway, dice pools are one of those mechanics that can go either way for me. So that's the only thing about the dice mechanics that I personally am not convinced of.
Yeah. For like for the rolling and everything, you basically take the highest result of like the pools that you rolled and everything. Which
I see.
So I actually do like this because you are playing as like regular people and everything without like crazy ass powers. I mean, there are the
You're not a level 20 god wizard, yeah.
Exactly. So you don't have like these extra crazy training skills or god blessed abilities that you're super blessed with and everything. You're just regular people, and like you can still be good at something, but there's also that small chance of like, I made a oopsie. Oh boy. So I think that does kind of reflect of like how like human you do feel.
Yes.
With like
I would say
with
so.
like with Call of Cthulhu, you very much feel like you are human, but the factor of the stress of the situations and how much of your sanity is left and everything adds to more of the stress and more of the tight rope you have to walk to in order to succeed. In this case, however, it's very much you have that steel resolved and being like, yeah, these are like my trustworthy skills and everything. So, bam!
Yeah, to compare it again, like Cthulhu is you are human to your detriment, and Candela seems to be you are human to your advantage.
Yeah.
Which I guess is also, you know, you are human to your both advantage and disadvantage in Vampire, but you know.
Yeah.
Column A, column B.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think when it comes to dice pools, if you add them all together, that's great. I love it. I love being like, oh, I get to roll 4 this time, and then you just add those 4 dice together. That's awesome. Yeah. Taking the highest of your regular dice plus your gilded, if you get to roll it, that also makes sense to me. I think where my issue comes with dice pools is like if your stat is 3, and so then you have to roll 3 numbers, like 3 of your dice have to be higher than that number. Or
gotcha.
like things like that. Like when it starts to be like, okay, so which dice do I count and which ones do I not? That's where dice pools really start to confuse me.
Ah, gotcha. Yeah, that does make sense. That does make sense. I guess I guess it's kind of like the detriment of being kind of like a beginner's like TTRPG when you're like more of an experienced like TTRPG person and everything. You're just kind of like very much like, okay, I like this. I wish there was more beef meat on the bone and everything. But like, I guess it's like playing like your favorite like kid video game that you played and everything that you still love and do. But
Ocarina of Time, baby.
Exactly. And then you can just like beat it without even blinking, and you're like, I wish there was a difficult version of this. And then
the 3DS gave us the like mirror Master Quest version where it flips around.
Oh yes, love that.
But yeah, I mean, like dice pools are fine. You know, the over under is okay. But it does sort of, that mechanic that I was talking about earlier. It does sort of feel like if you roll for Fireball and then you can only do damage on the ones that roll above a certain number. You're like, well, that's kind of silly.
Yeah.
And it always sucks if you've got to roll, like, 3 dice above a certain number, and you can only roll 2 in that pool, and you're like, then why am I even rolling?
That is also true. That is also true.
So those are just my issues with that particular mechanic. But, as we discussed, that doesn't seem to be the case with Candela, so never mind.
It's all good.
I'm just complaining to complain.
It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. We're all allowed to have our one spicy take of each episode.
Only one?
Okay. Actually, no. Fire ahead. Load up the barrels. Fling them. Oh.
I was like, I think I could do a taco cookout with how much spice I've had on this podcast.
God, that would be absolutely hilarious. Welcome to the Spicy Taco Hot Take Bar and everything. What you want? Oh, D&D's Mitt, you're coming right up.
Roll to Talk Spicy Edition. No, not like that.
Good to clarify.
Just hot takes.
Oh, lovely. Yeah. So yeah, I think after like the other mechanics that are up in there are marks and scars. They are permanent.
So cool.
It is so goddamn cool. I really do love the marks and scars system. They are essentially your hit points and everything, and how they work. And like if you like fail certain things, or when like they're like, you take like physical harm, mental harm, or you start to like bleed from like the magical eldritch stuff that's happening, you can take a mark and everything, and if it's like exceeds that type of mark, all those marks, you get a scar, and you as the player, if I remember correctly, can talk about like, you can describe what is that scar going to be and everything. And the one thing I do appreciate about like the scars stuff and how they say like, well, your character's not dead unless you do, like, extremely crazy shit. It's very much like you are completely retired and everything, and you are changed for the worse, and also the whole, your organization, they're always called Obscuras and everything, they will no longer need your services. They will no longer rely on you. You're basically like, yeah, retired. Yee.
As someone who grew up in Appalachia, it is kind of funny to me because it does sort of read as like, well, he fucked up his back and he can't work no more.
It kind of does. I guess I was just like, I was like kind of like putting like the chocolate glaze sugar, making it sweet and everything, and being like, ha.
Yeah, it does sound like, pre-union layoff because you got hurt. An FMLA.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah.
But anyway, before I got on my FMLA union soapbox.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the marks and scars are interesting. I think one of the things that's really cool about Darrington Press's games is that they are very forgiving when it comes to character death. But I think the marks and scars is such an interesting way to still have stakes and still have consequences.
Yeah.
And I think it doesn't add to the horror exactly, but it is something where it haunts the narrative if you have these scars. Like,
yeah,
you never fully escape your choices.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is.
Interesting.
Yeah, that is like very total interesting. I feel like it's kind of like a nice game mechanic representation when it comes to PTSD and everything. And like it's not like the most perfect thing at all, but I think it's like perhaps like a good step forward for someone to sort of like improve on like that if they would ever want to like not mechanize like PTSD and everything, because we don't try to like game mechanize with like mental health stuff. That's always like a tricky thing to do, especially when you want to like do it respectfully and everything.
Right.
But I think very much having it as the way of like, even death is not the only thing that stops you from being a hero and everything. And the game pretty much says, hey, you did all that you could. You've been through everything. The game, the character, and the organization are telling you, you need to stop before you actually die. And I think that is a wonderful saying to do, because we've all had those sessions where we've had those players do the heroic self-sacrifice and everything, and they're always cool and everything. But the thing about like self-sacrifice is a lot of it, it's very much like, I get that. You're doing it for the better good, but also you're kind of like not devaluing your life. You're sacrificing your life and happiness, and like saying it's like the only way to do it without like when you're pinned up against the back of the wall. And with here, it's very much just like, stop it. No. You're on the bench. You're the water boy now. You're not even the bench. You're the bleachers. You're a sports parent.
Soccer mom.
Hey.
But yeah, I mean, I like the idea that it's, you know, let someone else make the hard decisions for a while.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting in like how that like I said, how it plays into the horror aspect of it. And also there's a bit of a fear of us, you know, we as humans have a fear of being useless, of letting people down. And I think that can play into the mental horror of it, like being told, okay, you're done.
Yeah.
Even if it's out of protection, and then you're like,
yeah.
So I wasn't good enough. And now I'm being sent home. So I think that's an interesting thing that you can play with as well.
Yeah.
But I think it's really interesting how the ways that this game plays into the small aspects of horror that are present. Like that, like scars and the haunting of that, like, and things like that. The other thing I think is interesting is the terminology bleed and how it is like the magic corrupting force, which is that is the thing that made me think of South of Midnight and the stigma that's in that game. But I do think it's very interesting, like the way that they've used the language of the rules to evoke this certain emotion.
Yeah, no, that is like a great analogy of that fear of no longer being useful, and like you put everything that you worked into to this one place, and then when you have burned it all and you're like essentially toss aside everything, that's a fear we face a lot, especially in the US right now with the jobscape and everything. Yeah. So it's like, oh god. Now I have an image in my head of a Candela Obscura like mini campaign where like the Obscura is like a sort of corporation where they're like an insurance company, and everyone is like insurance agents, like trying to like figure out what's happening, and like when they're like all
Mr.
beat
Incredible
up,
in the beginning of the movie.
Yep, pretty much. And when you're all up, they're pretty much like say, okay, so here's your retirement package and everything. We no longer need your services. I know you have tenure and everything, but you don't have, we've been reading your performance reports and everything. You're no longer reaching that high standard.
It's being forced to retire or forced to turn in your notice.
Yeah. I almost want to say it's like, okay, this might just be my media literacy artistic brain going in here, playing with the themes of we've been talking about here. But I feel like it is sort of like a cool representation of like managing and representing work burnout in a sense.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, because like thinking about it with like the marks and stains, like those are things that you do to push through the jobs, and like when you reach all those marks and stains, you start developing more of that like bitterness or tiredness or like no more effort to put in those jobs that you were doing beforehand, and then like I could write a whole essay about this. Hold up. Brain, come back! Come back! We got a show here.
It's like grad school. Here we go. We're gonna write a thesis.
Look, I am a YouTube reviewer discussion girly and everything. I love reading those things, especially when they're like the good ones that actually take time to like think and like actually be like, this is what we're talking about. This ain't like surface level, like the real meaning of like Chainsaw Man here, and that we all need to be like, like that's not the point of Chainsaw Man. Denji's a well-developed character. I will. Denji's a. Oh, my poor sweet Denji. But yeah, no, we're going back. We'll go back. But no, I think that's actually, yeah, that is honestly like a cool, legit horror to think about. And like, there's other TTRPGs that kind of like expand upon that idea, like the Triangle Agency with that whole idea. But I think that is something to like think about in like the meta text as well, with the bleed and stains. And like how the game, the designers, and like even the people in charge keep reminding you, do what you can, do not push yourself to this extremely limit. Because then you cannot do everything that you need to do.
Another thing I want to say on the topic of bleed as well, and that the use of that word specifically, one of the things we talk about a lot in TTRPGs is character bleed. And I've played in several horror games, whether they be Dread or like D&D, where the horror at the end of it is in some way or another losing your individuality. Like there was one where it was like a doll piece monster that had like taken people's faces or hands or whatever. If you've ever played Dragon Age 2, it kind of was like Leandra and what happened with her. But all that to say is like it was just like a Frankenstein mishmash, but spider monster version.
Yeah.
And then there was another one where it was like aliens and it split people in two and then like impersonated them. And I know it was the same game master, and I noticed that every single time he did a horror game, that was the monster at the end, was always this thing that took a piece of you. And so I think it's very interesting in like the horror of character bleed, not the horror of character bleed, but with character bleed, you take on parts of your character. And that isn't always a good thing, you know, especially depending on the character you're playing. Well, it's what my character would do. You're in a Wendy's. Chill out.
You are literally in a Wendy's summoning your Rakshasa patron. No, stop it.
Man, this is Waffle House. But yeah, and so I think it's really interesting they use the word bleed because to me, like, character bleed and that blending of personalities reminds me of those horror games I've played where the horror is losing yourself in some way.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I think that's a really interesting thing. I think it's I think it's incredibly interesting coming from Critical Role. I'm like, let's talk about character bleed. Shall we?
Yeah, I feel like it's like that is really, really cool, and how like the game mechanics very much are like teaching you a little bit of like RPG safety tools in a way and everything. Kind of like sort of like a edutainment like show like Blue Clues or like Bill Nye the Science Guy, which I'm always for. I feel like when it comes to like Bill, yes, love it. Vocal stems.
We just dated ourselves big time.
Hey, look, I'm okay with it. I'm okay. I'm like 30, 31. I don't know. I'm within those range and everything. I've embraced it as long as I have my little inner kid alive. Oh lordy. But yeah, like no, like being able to practice safety tools that are like in the game design, that is like a very underrated, underappreciated part of like TTRPGs. That's like, haha, I don't know how to play safety tools and everything in my games. And you just point to like, well, you played this game. Oh yeah, they have this mechanic I really liked. Gotcha, sucker.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And this is something that I remember. I remember there was some discourse TM about this a few years ago. Is the inclusion of safety tools and what is a TTRPG in the front of a gaming rulebook. And a lot of people were like, oh well, like if you're picking up the book, you should know what these are, and you don't need to have safety tools printed in the book. I think it's so important that they are printed, at least some of them. Because this may be someone's first TTRPG, and they don't know what safety tools are. They don't know that the deck of player safety exists. They don't know about lines and veils because they don't have that groundwork. So, anyway, I think it's really important. I think it's really cool when you can do it in the mechanics, like we've talked about.
Yeah. It's like having like the instruction books for like when you're picking up like frozen food or like box of rice or everything. Like you gotta have, like, they're not always gonna have that in like every food stuff and everything, but the ones that do will provide like the instruction to do it. So it's like, yeah.
And like every shampoo bottle has rinse, lather, repeat, because that is not inherent knowledge. We're not born with that information.
Exactly. Also, no tears. Well, that's only on the one soap everything, but even then, still
the L'Oreal fish bottle. L'Oreal kids.
I miss that design. I miss the whimsy.
I know. Me too.
Well, speaking of the death of whimsy, more horror.
Yeah, let's go back to that.
Yeah. Oh God.
But to blend whimsy and horror, this is another thing I thought was really interesting about the kind of the setting of this game and the premise is that with the horror, like what the horror is in this one. Because we've got the eldritch horror in Cthulhu. We've got the very human horror of a vampire. But with this one, it really came across as more of the Fae. And that's not something I see used as a horror tool that often. Most of the time in media, and this is partially because I'm watching Fairytopia, like Barbie Fairytopia, and reading the Pixie Hollow stuff. So like the most I see with Fae is like these cute little charming, they wear little flowers and that's kind of it. And like we all live in happiness and harmony. However, mythological Fae, real Fae, are very tricksy. And so that is something that we have seen a little bit more with D&D and the Feywild, and you don't give the Fae your name, and you don't say thank you, and like, but you have to be polite, and like there's so many different rules with the Fae so that you can actually make it back home. And even the cute little pixies that wear little flowers and ride corgis, they are just as tricksy. But also, what also counts as a Fae being is a red cap and hobgoblins and things that are much more monstrous, and in some situations like the red cap, like kind of pretty much straight up evil, like they just kill people. And so real Fae, like when you branch out and you get further into what actually counts as a Fae being, they can get pretty horrific.
Yep.
And so I think it's very interesting to sort of bring that back into this game, because that's how it translated to me, was that the horror is the Fae.
Yeah.
And like, yes, it is supernatural. It is also ghosts and cryptids and stuff. But what is Bigfoot if not just a giant Fae being? Especially Mothman. I mean, he's also an alien, but
I mean, yeah. Oh, well, actually, if you think about it, Bigfoot technically would be a hobgoblin. Or bugbear, and those are Fae. Listen up, you cryptic! Listen up, Animal Planet! You're chasing a Fae! You're chasing an LGBTQIA icon right here! You're gay! I don't know. Oh, lordy. But no, yeah, I think that's honestly cool, interesting to see that. I didn't think of it as like Fae horror. I thought of it as like lingering like horror that is sort of like starts from like the actions and death of people who have like as our ghosts and everything, and the ghosts, like, depending on their emotions and like their regrets, kind of like bleeds like into like other aspects in the world, which would probably also be like the Fae and everything. Because can you imagine like if a ghost talked with a Fae, they would probably like be like, oh yeah, I can totally bring you back and everything. You just gotta give me your name and all that. Oh, that would actually be really cool. No, bring it back. But no, I think that really does make sense because like the whole like magic, like they say in the book and everything, is very much like they will have like these counters and everything. You're basically a ghost hunter and everything. And there are all of these like rules and things you have to do within this to like make sure none of it goes out. It very much does feel like talking with a Fae of like D&D and everything. So honestly, yeah, if we ever get an expansion for Candela Obscura, please, can we have an expansion that's all about like Fae horror, gothic stuff and everything? Please. But no, that is honestly really, really cool. And like there is like other Fae horror stuff like with like Changing the Lost. But that's more kind of like the existential horror of like I'm a changeling, but yet I'm also human, but yet I've been chosen to be this Fae thing. What do I do with it? But it's a lot less like brutal of like with vampire, but more of like the mental like, oh God. But no, like that's just yeah.
Sorry, one thing you mentioned is the like. Hang on, let me try to remember how you said it. The like ghosts and things that are there because something horrible happened in the real world. Again, that's something that happens in some Fae myths, like changelings, for example.
Yeah.
So there are some versions of changeling myth where the Fae basically come and steal a kid and replace it with a Fae because the kid is in a bad situation, like their parents are abusive type situation.
Yeah.
And so they basically say, "Here's a Fae, try that again." And we'll take care of the kid instead. Bye.
Yeah.
So like. You're a fairy social worker.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there are myths like that like Fae are attracted to certain things that happen in the real world. They congregate around, moments of pain or suffering or even joy. And this is something, again, that reminded me of South of Midnight is that that stigma in that game accumulates around places of pain and suffering.
Yeah. Oh man, this is.
And what is more horrific than preventable human suffering?
Exactly. That's why I'm going to therapy.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that is really, really cool to think about. Yeah, that's great analogy. 10 out of 10. Round of applause. Flowers, everything. Yeah. So yeah, we've talking through all of that, and when it comes to like your character classes and everything and all that, I've always gotten the vibe that it's very much like a con heist team and everything of how they've described it. And like, because there's like categories for them. Like, there are 4 categories. Where's my notes and everything? Where are my notes? Where's my notes?
There's the face, the muscle,
the
scholar, the slink, and the weird.
Yes.
And I love the weird because, again, it goes back to Monster of the Week, having a weird stat in a way. But your face is your journalist or your magician. Your muscle is the explorer or the soldier. And by the way, for those that cannot see the book, the soldier is in like a World War I kit. Scholar is your doctor and professor. Slink is criminal and detective who looks very much like Sherlock Holmes. And then your weird is your medium and your occultist.
Yeah. I love how they blended like the real world like jobs into these categories that could be like class mechanically wise and everything, but also providing such an easy way of like, hey, what'd you like to do? What's your gameplay style? All right, here you go. And like I just like always with the makeup of it, like I just feel like I'm going on a heist. I think it's probably with the descriptions and everything because I can't help but hear like the Leverage like intro in my head every time I read it, and like it's just fascinating to see how everything is just like your basic normal stuff, and you feel like, okay, yeah, this is like probably normal, but it's not afraid to like show like this is really weird stuff with the medium and the occultist, who are like practitioners and like practitioners of like the mystic arts and everything, and like have a fundamental knowledge or like a little bit of a connection to like the supernatural, but they're not flat out magicians. They are still just tiny little vessels, and I appreciate they didn't do the D&D thing of making like a few classes so fucking crazy OP, and everyone's at equal ground here, and you work with the limited kit you got. So yeah, and also the artwork.
I find very interesting too. Is sorry, you broke up.
Yeah, I was sorry. I was just gonna say. Also, the artwork for like the little like cards for like each of the for like the categories for classes are just so fucking gorgeous. It's just like,
yeah. One thing I think is interesting too with like the way the art is done, the art style it's done in, and the classes that are available is it really goes back into that 20s thing. In the early teens, late 1800s, and the 1920s, occultists and mediums were a lot of them were going to court because they were charged with fortune telling. And there's a I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but she did the horoscope for Juliette Gordon Low, founder of the Girl Scouts. I know, right? And she but she basically went and she said, here are trends that I see. I'm not predicting anything. And she got off. Like she walked away. And I'm like, yeah, like that's such an interesting thing. And then I think about the magician under the face archetype is I'm thinking about like the Prestige movie with Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale.
Yeah. Oh God.
And also The Illusionist, which is my preferred magician movie. But since I'm talking about the 20s, we'll go with the Prestige.
Oh, damn. The Illusionists talk about. I have barely heard people talk about The Illusionists. They always the Nolan Bros will always say, "Oh, that's a rip-off movie." It is not. I watched both. I love both of them equally. We need more classic like theater performance magicians and everything. Like it's an untapped like genre to do and everything. But
also, while we're on The Illusionist, just real quick, if your special interest is Empress Sissy, you should watch The Illusionist because it's based on her son.
Ooh.
Loosely, but it is based on him.
Yeah. Oh, that is glorious. Oh, that is glorious. Yeah. No, yeah, it's just so cool to see all that and what you were talking about with like how like in the past like the Girl Scout fortune teller just like I just noticed trends and everything. You can't get shit on me and like breaking kayfabe and everything, just to be like I get you nah. That's glorious. And like in this world, it's like the kayfabe is real. I can't break the kayfabe of the lie, like, oh, it doesn't exist and everything. Otherwise, I'm done for and everything. So it's like that. It's also that weird thing of like playing along and like being these cards for people to like play and observe and all that. While on the other side, you're just like, huh.
I think too, there's a lot of really good opportunity for character dynamics between characters like the doctor and the professor and the detective versus the magician and the occultist and the medium. This is something that was really popular and a really like heavy topic in that era is where the intersection and the barrier between science and the occult, science and magic. Because the Victorian era was when we had huge breakthroughs in like germ theory and medicine, and then we had more breakthroughs later. But it is just really interesting to me that there's so much opportunity there, and then you also have the relationship questions to help you build your relationships with both the other PCs and NPCs. So you basically get like half the world building done in character creation.
Glorious. Yeah, and a thing I really like about like the roles and everything that you get like your main abilities that you can do. Like for faces, it's like I know a guy. Like you can like once for assignment, you can like ask the GM like, hey, is there a guy I can do that can help us with the investigation and everything, and like really like do like some sweet talking to like help out with some roles and everything. And then there are like the specialty abilities depending on what of the like face subclasses you choose and everything, like magician perhaps and everything. You can have the escape artist ability where you can spend a like a nerve, which is like one of your like set like resources you can use to like help out with like abilities or like resisting rolls and all that, to like automatically escape ropes, cuffs, manacles, or creatures that have grappled you, which just like gives me that hilarious visual from like this is like a anime reference and everything. So in Golden Kamuy, there is a character known as the Escape King and everything. He's got like super disjointed bones and everything. He can like disjoint them at will, and he's just like always like slithering around when he gets like, it's so cool. And that's what I always picture. Or like you can do like role play as like, hey, watch this trick, abracadabra, boom.
I was thinking of Dr. Delbert Doppler from Treasure Planet when he gets his hands out of the rope, being like, with abnormally thin wrists. I have one question. Is this yours?
I love that movie.
Excellent movie. We've talked so much about movies in this session. This has been very fun.
Yeah, it's been very fun, and like I would say, like Candela Obscura feels like a movie TTRPG. Honestly, it has like, I think that's why, because it's just like it has like the core main elements and like feelings of like your favorite like home blockbuster movie that you will rent, and it's like, holy crap, this is really, really good and everything. It becomes like this nice cult classic that you just be like, hey, corporation, you should bring this or bring it more attention. Everyone's like, no.
I mean, we've talked so much about different movies. Like we've talked about The Incredibles. We've talked about The Prestige, The Illusionist. Sherlock Holmes movies. Like there's so many of these that I do feel like if I was going to play, if I was like, oh, I really love that show, that movie, I want to play in that world, Candela is probably the system I would use. There's one Sandman, right? Yes, that was a show. That's one that I think would be very apt for this as well. Like there's so many where you have to keep something hidden and secret and, you know, be the hero, probably. Atlantis, even. Disney's Atlantis.
Oh, yes. Glorious. Yeah. That is just cool to see and everything. Like
also in the appropriate era, too.
Indeed. Oh, God, that'd be so cool. I feel like with a lot of TTRPGs, there are two aspects that are usually up in front. You're usually like playing in a video game, depending on if like the mechanics of the game are very like video gamey-esque, like D&D 5.5, which they're now calling it instead of like 24 edition, which good. And then there's also like if you're playing, if you're like doing like a little bit of like an improv show, or what I like to flavor it as, you are in a book that's being told, and the DM is like the narrator, and the narrator is like one of those narrators like, all right, person that I am narrating towards and everything, what are your opinions about this and everything? And the characters kind of like react towards the narrator and everything. So but with games like Candela Obscura, like it embraces like these movie aspects, like these cinematic aspects, which is another core thing that Daggerheart does as well, and also is like one of the foundations, the pillars of designing everything, was making things cinematic and everything.
Yes.
Like being able to train yourself and the DM to encourage to like very deeply describe what you are doing and angling it right, and being able to like tell a story visually in your words and with dialogue, and along with like the actions that you have at disposal with your character and with the world reacting to you and the story you're being told. That's just pure cinema. Pure, absolute cinema. Added to it.
The interesting thing to me, especially when we compare to like D&D, is like D&D is a war game first, kind of like Warhammer. That's where that's its origin, really, and then it became a narrative second. And I do feel like with Darrington Press's games, including Daggerheart,
exactly,
is that they are narrative focused first, and it is interesting to me to see the games that they're producing because they are going narrative first and basing the mechanics around the narrative that you can play with that they want to tell versus adjusting the narrative to fit the mechanics.
Yeah,
I think that's interesting.
It is.
And I'm realizing in this exact moment that I prefer narrative first, mechanics second.
I am the same and everything. I'm very much like I will go either way depending on the flavor that I would like to have for today and everything. But if you put a gun to my head and everything, I will probably say narrative first. I'm sorry, mechanics. You are my first child.
And as we talked about in season 1, like I do believe in the power of mechanics. I do believe in the power of rules as written. I just think those rules are better when they are built for a narrative and not the other way around.
Exactly.
Which is why I have enjoyed looking into Candela. It's why I have enjoyed Daggerheart. It's why I've enjoyed For the Queen. It's why I've enjoyed Powered by the Apocalypse games, and it's why I enjoy Dragon Age. It's why I enjoy just all of these games that are not built mechanics first.
Indeed, it is a good time. It is a very, very good time.
So there's my second hot take for the day, I suppose.
Hey, I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you, just with a loaded barbed wire, like greatsword, just being like, "Come at us, bring it on." Yeah. So, any closing thoughts about like Candela Obscura before we end today's episode?
Yeah. So as I said at the beginning of this, I've not had a chance to play. I have not really watched a lot of people play. I haven't had time. I am now very excited for this game.
Yeah.
I really am excited to play this game someday.
Hells yeah.
And
we got another one.
And I think I've got a whole box of dice that look like this, right?
Oh, yes.
I think I might have to get a gold medal D6 to be my gilded dice, because what says gilded more than gold?
Exactly. Absolutely. Glorious. Yeah, my closing thoughts is that this is a wonderful, underappreciated game that deserves more attention with the aspects that we have talked about and everything. Now that the hype and the over expectations have like muddled out and everything, and now we can like see the entire picture frame instead of like the like big old flash like in the colors and like the bold lines and everything. We can now appreciate the strokes, the artwork, and the purpose of each and one and all that. So yeah. Yeah. But yeah, thank you all for listening, watching another episode of Roll to Talk, where we have talked about of Candela Obscura and everything. Witty, would you like to tell people where they can find you and everything?
Sure thing. You can find me at Witty X Witch across any social that I am on. You can find me on Saturdays at World Tree Quest playing my favorite system, Dragon Age, that I will not shut up about ever. And from time to time, you can find me, since we talked a little bit about For the Queen this episode, you can find me and several other really cool folks on For the Cause. They do charity streams of For the Queen every month, different charity every month. It's awesome. This month we did Room to Read, or I guess last month, March, we did Room to Read, and it was great. So definitely keep an eye on that. Going forward, I will be making more appearances in the future. We just don't know exactly when.
Yeah, and I'm Dice&Autism. You guys can follow me at the Dice&Autism on all the socials on YouTube here, with doing the skits and the sad videos. I do the streaming and all that stuff where Yes, on Twitch where I play video games. I was doing New Rawless on my Twitch channel, but by the time this is released and everything, it has ended and everything. But fear not. I know. A 3-year-long campaign. Done. I'm so happy how it turned out. You can check all that on the Tales Guild channel, which is our actual play channel where we have a whole bunch of other cool stuff. And actually, we did have a mini Candela Obscura campaign. We did for Roll for Wishes and everything, for the Logomancy, everything and all that, for his charity and stuff and everything. So yeah, it was DM'd by the lovely, talented Hans Kate and everything. I keep messing up her username and everything. But she's lovely. She's a wonderful being and everything. Go check it out. Really cool and all that. But yeah, we will see you all next time, okay? All right, guys. Bye.